What is up, good people? Jungle Inc. here. Hope you're doing well. Gary Gensler showing up on Squawk Box. He's going to talk about cryptocurrencies, Gamestop, some changes to the stock market in terms of settlement time of your trades. So we move into a modern era here, the architecture. Let's go ahead and roll the tape. And maybe this time around, you never know, but maybe we'll get some straightforward and useful answers from this guy. Let's see.
To talk about something that I think we all wish had happened a long time ago, which is T1, and I thought you should explain because it means a lot to our viewers without them knowing it.
Look, this is a really good thing. If you sell your stock on a Monday, you will get your cash on a Tuesday. That's the easiest way to think about it. And in the past, just a week or so ago, it took 2 days. If you sold your stock on a Monday, you got it Wednesday. So we worked at the Securities and Exchange Commission on a rule to shorten that settlement cycle because...
I mean, that's a lot better. It's half the time. Again, in the modern era, everything's digital, should be happening in real time. I don't know the mechanics. I'm sure there is some stupid reason why it takes so long, but at least they've cut it down. You have a T1 settlement time now. Gary Gensler's done quite well bringing out this very advanced stock trading system.
Today's technology allows that. But here's the interesting thing. We're just back to where we were in the 1920s. There was actually, if you sold your stock on a Monday in the 1920s, you got your cash on a Tuesday. And because of everything going on, they lengthened it all the way to a week, and we've had to slow walk it back.
But Gary Gensler's got us back to the 20s.
The stock exchanges,
that's his accomplishment?
the custodians, the clearinghouses, and this thing works smoothly. Mexico and Canada, Argentina, Jamaica all joined us. I'm really proud of the work of the SEC, but it was a collaboration across industry.
The one thing I worry about...
The best thing he's done is take us back to the 1920s with this advanced technology he's talking about. Again, it just boggles my mind that in the modern era, you don't click sell and it's just settled, done, cash in your account. I mean, I get the future of blockchain and probably... most stock trading will end up on some sort of ledger where it settles out in real time. That's where we're going. That's what BlackRock wants to do. I get it. But even without that, it definitely shouldn't take 2 days, no less 1 day, to settle out these transactions.
About us, I'm very close to NVIDIA, and NVIDIA created me. Very easily, it created me. They created my voice, created my
Wish
face.
they wouldn't.
Basically,
so are you human or are you just artificial
We
intelligence?
wonder sometimes.
David, am I human or am
It's
I...
unclear. You may be a simulation.
I'm a dollar sign represented by a man.
That we know.
Yes, and Mr. Musk once said I was a simulation, so I can't be sure. But what I think is interesting is that you are very worried about AI and the power of it. And I know that...
I think that artificial intelligence is the most transformative technology of our time. And I talked about the 1920s, then it was the automobile, electrification of the whole economy. But now we're taking human decision-making and more putting it in the box, in the algorithm. So I think that's transformative. It's a good thing for capital markets, but it also raises real risks of conflicts. What if the algorithm is, in essence, trading against you? Risk of fraud. What if the algorithm is trying to defraud you or mislead you? And also risk, if we're all reliant on one or two models, then the whole capital markets might basically, drive off the cliff together. And
probably depends on whose algorithm is cheating. If it's his friends at Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, well, that's probably just fair game. But if it's someone else's algorithm, running a perfectly legal business, that he'll probably have problems with, I would expect.
And
but you're aware of that, and you can protect us.
Jim, fraud is fraud, and so
Okay.
somebody shouldn't be doing fraud. But these are more difficult challenges, more real challenges, and the conflicts are real too.
Okay, well, let's try to figure out what fraud is fraud. Let's say I buy a lot of contracts. Like use random stock. I buy contracts or options on Gamestop. I then publish...
This is just a hypothetical, Jim?
Totally hypothetical, because I don't want to... I mean, I don't want to really try to hurt anybody.
Why not? Can't we just ask about Roaring Kitty? I mean, why
okay,
wouldn't
well,
we?
if someone publishes...
Look, Dave, you ask about a specific thing. I just want to talk to your viewers for a second.
All right, he's going to talk to us. This could be his moment. And I understand he can't talk about, Roaring Kitty specifically. But possibly, he'll give us some guidance here. Some just general rules. He should be able to give the public some information that would help us understand what is legal and what is not. So, I see him. He's gearing up here. He's getting ready. Let's see what he says.
The SEC runs a civil law enforcement agency. We're a cop on the beat, and you would expect us to investigate where we investigate, right. But we don't talk about it publicly because we follow the facts and the law, and only if we think there's something to bring in front of a court do we then talk about it publicly.
Hence how hypothetical.
Understood.
Let's say you're Paul Weiss, you're my lawyer, okay? I say to you, look, I want to put up a cryptogram. And it's of a chair leaning up, which we know from video game playing means, come on, this is the ninth inning, get ready. And we know that I'm a person who happens to like the stock of Gamestop. This is the signal, come on, get ready. Is this something, hypothetically, that the SEC should worry about?
So, look, again, it's not so hypothetical because you're describing things that are in the public domain and the public is interested in. So, but generally speaking, you have to make sure that you don't mislead the public and that you don't in any way do things in the markets that may be manipulative or misleading. And so that's the key thing in our capital markets.
No, the key thing is if you can cure it with disclosure. This is Brandeis. If they disclose that this is something that a call to action, then you can't go after them.
Disclosure is one really key part of our capital markets. When you buy the stock of a company, you expect that they give you full and fair disclosure. That's, by the way, not what you're getting right now in this crypto field.
All right, so we're going to probably go off onto crypto. But if you notice, he didn't give us any real guidance. And I think what he's trying to send out the message is this, because you saw before Roaring Kitty went live, there's all these disclosures and things. And I think Gary Gensler is trying to tell us that, hey, just because you do a disclosure, if we think you're trying to manipulate the markets, well, we're still going to go after you. I think that's the message and probably his whole purpose of showing up here live. And of course, he doesn't give us any sort of information. Just everything is facts and circumstances. And, you'll know when they sue you if you did something wrong.
Cautionary tale there, that disclosure. But disclosure doesn't necessarily protect a bad actor if they're manipulating a market. You can't just simply disclose that away, particularly if you're misleading the public.
Not cured. Disclosure not cured. Very good.
Can I ask a broader question about the public markets? Because it comes up a lot now, in particular sometimes from those who are actually very active in these very large private markets. But the idea that our public markets are broken, that we have 7 companies that represent 30+%, for example, of the market cap, that we have far fewer public companies than we did 10 or 20 years ago. I'm curious how you think about that and whether you agree or disagree with those who would argue that the public markets don't work the way they should.
Look, I believe deeply in competition.
I'll tell you what, one thing they're probably not going to go into here, it's also broken from this fact. We have the people with the big money, they're able to get in, like right now, some of these really transformative AI plays. You can't go and invest in OpenAI or Anthropic or, that's all private. And they don't need the public's money until they have already grown that company so high they're ready to cash out and dump on your heads, and then they let you in. And there just isn't the same opportunities as there was in the past. I mean, don't get me wrong, you still have opportunities in the stock market, but the general everyday person, they're shut out from some of those early investments. If someone did want to take a runner on AI right now, it's much harder to do because they all stay private until they really scale up. And of course, your Amazons and your Googles, they buy it all up and control it. And it's not just within the spectrum of artificial intelligence. It's been the last decade for the most part. They just shut out the general public from being able to get in at all in a very early way, and they keep all of those early gains to themselves. And then once they scale up the company, they only need you for one thing, which is to cash out on your head. So I would say there actually is a lot of problems with their capital markets at the current time, and probably part of the appeal, at least, to the crypto space, where the everyday person feels like, well, maybe I'm getting in early. I'm getting in before the big money. I think that is part of the appeal.
And we in the U.S. benefit from very large capital markets, which are 5 times our banking system. $23 trillion banking system, $110+ trillion capital markets. Not Europe, not Asia, that competition. But I also believe in competition between public markets and private markets. Maybe it's because my dad had a small business of 30 people. Maybe it's because I did work at Goldman Sachs that when I was there, and Jim, you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were on a different floor.
No, I wasn't on a different floor. I was on a better floor, higher paid.
Don't lose track here. Don't lose track.
Sorry,
But I really do think that public and private can compete with each other and benefit the American public. The key is to make sure that there's standard rules, that people get the proper...
I wonder who's worth more. We know Gary Gensler, some years ago, he was worth $100 million. And he has most of his money essentially in the S&P 500. And it's performed great over the last 3 or 4 years. I wonder how much Gary is worth in terms of compared to Jim Cramer. Which one actually has the bigger nest egg, the more net worth? Let's check out. I'm going to Google right now. We know Gary is well in excess of $100. I'm going to see if I can find out while Gary talks to us here what Jim Cramer's net worth is.
Disclosure, if you're investing in something, that basic bargain, they get full and complete information on material aspects of the companies, but also that the capital markets, like this here, are operating free of fraud and manipulation.
But what about the private credit markets? I mean, they've grown enormously, for example. There is, you could argue, a lack of transparency, but that may go along with it because you have typically a contract between one borrower and one lender.
But there what we have is we have competition between private provision of credit and the banks. And generally, that's a competition that we, promote. Now, at the same time, do we have to make sure the investors in those private credit funds are getting, the disclosure they need and they're not getting misled and so forth?
You have a really active following on social media.
All bad, by the way. No one following Gary Gensler likes the guy. Before we get into this, so Jim Cramer is estimated to have about $150 million net worth. And Gary Gensler, he's got to be close because, again, 3-4 years ago, he was worth about $100. So, they're about neck and neck, both of these scumbags. And let's hear what the social media realm has to say to Gary.
When you posted yesterday you'd be on, tons of replies. And
thanks. Did it help your viewership?
We'll see.
Well, that's why we're talking.
The 2 issues that I saw they wanted to learn most about was the timing of the Ethereum ETF approval and...
I think that happened a week and a half ago.
And what pressures you felt to make that happen. And then second would be trading patterns among members of Congress. Can you talk about the 2?
We have in the U.S. already a way that you can invest in various underlying securities and underlying commodities called exchange-traded products. In January, we approved an exchange-traded product on Bitcoin. And about a week and a half ago, similar filings to list on the New York Stock Exchange, list on NASDAQ and the like, exchange-traded products on Ethereum.
Really odd there, isn't it? That he said ETFs could be used for securities or commodities. Is he trying to insinuate that even if Ethereum wasn't a security that he would allow it to go through? Because that can't be correct. Because if Ethereum was a security, it would be an illegally sold security, and that definitely you couldn't approve that ETF. I'm just curious why he threw that in. Of course, that's true. They have ETFs for stocks and all sorts of stuff, and also commodities. But I'm just curious why he threw in that little caveat there.
Ethereum had been traded on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange futures for 3+ years, and the staff looked at that closely, and that was approved. Now, the underlying exchange-traded products still need to go through a process to have the disclosure about that, and that will take some time, but they're working on that right now.
How about congressional trading?
Well, look, everybody in the markets, 330 million Americans, should understand that you have to play by the rules of our capital markets. And one of those things is that when you trade, you don't trade on what's called inside information from a company that is not made disclosed to everybody else. But the same rules apply to all of us to make.
The same rules apply to all of us, but they're not enforced in the same way. Clearly, members of Congress, the Senate, they have information that nobody else has, and it would be pretty much impossible for them not to trade on inside information. They know bills that are being worked on that may not even be announced for months and months and months. Like, there is no possible way that members of our government, whether they mean to or not, are not trading with inside information. They are the insiders of insiders. This is ridiculous.
Sure that we do right by the law.
So we could conceivably investigate someone for inside information who's in Congress.
Could, but
well, historically that has happened in the past.
Okay, now, Polkadot, Cordana, Cosmos, Immutable, Ronin, Bonk, Osmosis, Sushi Swap, My Neighbor Alice have all traded millions. I'm talking about millions of dollars this very morning.
Where's
now,
XRP?
should we have a Sushi Swap, maybe an ETF, or the proprietary kind? Just I would think that Bonk is a natural, and Osmosis. These are trading Gary, these are millions of dollars. These things are trading. Shouldn't we have it? Shouldn't we have some sort of product?
Let me say something more broadly about the crypto markets. Right now, without prejudging anyone, these tokens, whether they're the ones Jim listed or other tokens, have not given you the disclosures that you not only need to make your investment decisions, but also that are required by the law. It's
a half-truth there. I believe that these crypto projects do need to give us disclosure so we can make applicable investments. But I disagree that it's required by the law. Not yet. And that's what we see in those proposed regulations that just passed the House, that hopefully become final. They make it a legal requirement for that to happen. Because again, these crypto assets are not securities, they're not companies, they're not equity positions, they are not debt positions where they're required to pay you back interest and capital. So he's kind of fudging there a little bit. It's true they should do that, and as investors we need information we can rely on to know what these projects are really doing and what the facts are from the nonsense, but it's not required by law. And I think he's doing a little time traveling there with that statement.
Basic concept in our securities market. We, the SEC, tomorrow are turning 90. Happy birthday, SEC, 90. And what President Roosevelt did is he created this commission to oversee that you, the investors, get disclosure. And in the crypto markets, they aren't giving you that disclosure. And secondly, that exchanges, like here, this floor of the New York Stock Exchange, get properly regulated to protect against fraud and manipulation, and they don't trade against you. And these crypto exchanges, Jim, are doing things we would never allow this New York Stock Exchange to do. Our laws don't allow you to trade against your customers. And so you've seen the bankruptcies in this space, and there are...
First of all, I agree with him. I don't trust any exchanges, none of them. And they all trade against their customers, and it should not be legal, but that's the problem. He knows it's happening, and he has no power to stop it because, we need these regulations for crypto assets to roll out. And I wish he could just be honest and say, look, this is happening, we need to stop it. Come on, Congress, fix the situation. That's really would be an honest way of presenting this information, not acting like that already is law, but a lot of stuff he says is correct. Projects should disclose certain information so investors know what they're getting into. And further, we should just have general rules for these exchanges and protections for people. You should never just get wiped out and, where'd your money go? Sam Bankman-Fried gave it to some good cause. Like, there are so many problems out there that can be fixed, but those regulations have not passed yet.
Some of the most leading lights in this field are either in jail, about to go to jail, or waiting extradition.
Okay, well, it's a suboptimal situation for them, but I'm looking at the...
But it's a suboptimal situation for investors. You're investing in a field right now that you're not getting the proper disclosure.
Agree, there's securities for people actually I know. I mean, their names. And there's nothing... You know that, too.
Yeah, that's funny, yeah.
I mean, some people even in this room have their names attached to a coin for no reason. Makes no sense.
I'm sorry, you guys have coins?
No, we don't.
There's
we
a
do
Cramer
not.
coin?
There should be.
Oh,
but
Kramer's getting the Wells
There's a
notice.
Cramer coin.
I hope it's properly registered.
Well, I wasn't
Jim.
going to bring it up because now it's a pump and dump. Like, wow, Cramer coin. I was not going to bring it up, but there you go.
Chair Gensler, wait. Can we have only a little bit of time
The
left.
SEC versus Ripple Labs.
Ripple.
Right, Dave, what do you want to ask?
There you go.
Thanks. You
I've
lost
got
that
the
one.
floor.
Thanks.
What I want to ask is, I used to text a lot of my sources, and now they say, please don't text me at that number.
I wish they would have delved into that a little more.
SEC. It's the personal use of personal devices for work. Many describe it as a money grab. It's tens of millions in fines you guys have leveled at this point.
It's actually something quite different.
I love that Cramer screamed out that they lost to Ripple, which we all know is true, and he had no retort. You notice that, but I think we're going to cap it here. I was hoping a little more we would get into with cryptocurrencies, but of course this guy evades every question, doesn't have any real information for us. But it was good to see him on the hot seat there, and to see Jim Cramer yell at him for losing to Ripple, because he did in a really bad way. Let me know what you think down below. As always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised right here on Jungle Link.